Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bootleg presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. I'm your guest, Tom Kreager, high school sports editor of the Tennessean. This is our weekly high school football talk where we talk about the top games of the week and like to bring in coaches to discuss their big games of that week. This week, special treat. It's Battle of the Borough week. Those familiar with that big rivalry game, undefeated Oakland versus undefeated Riverdale. Should be a great game. Joined now by Riverdale coach Will Kriesky with the head coach of the undefeated Riverdale Warriors, a team that's only given up 27 points all season long.
Hey, I appreciate you having us on. It is a big week around here. I don't think my phone has stopped since probably Saturday morning, just with people asking for tickets and trying to how they can get in the game and what they all got going on. And I'm excited for our kids and the community and just high school football in general, man. It's going to be a really nice atmosphere. I know Oakland has been a part of two really good atmospheres the last few weeks. And I'm excited for our kids and excited to see how they perform.
Coach, I've seen a lot of these special Riverdale games. I mean, I remember one game when the horse was there at Riverdale and there was a wedding proposal. I mean, I think I'd filed my story and traffic was still lined out. So there's been some special games, but when you have two undefeated teams, two teams ranked in the AP polls, in our Super 25 poll top 10, this has all the makings of just a special Friday night.
It does. Coach Wells and I was talking about the game when we went to 3 overtimes, 2010. That year, it was one of our second year here at Riverdale together, and just how it was standing room only that night. Nobody, and I think that was like a week 5 game, and both of us were undefeated at that time. And we're just talking about how it has the same feel as it does from that night and that time, and just with, like you said, with the horse and just a tradition, it goes back to Riverdale, Oakland, the first 2 high schools here. And that's what the alumni and the community, that's why they're so excited to come out on Friday night and watch these 2 high schools.
Coach, we talked about this on the phone briefly. Both teams are in the playoffs. You know that. I mean, both teams have already locked up a spot, but mathematically, if you win this game with your win already over Rockville, you guys are going to be the top seed. So, I mean, it gets even bigger. I mean, it's a big game. And, of course, when you start thinking playoff seeding, and it's that time of year when you start thinking about playoffs and who you may match up with, this is a big game for seeding. And, of course, a big thing for you, potential region champion if you win.
Yeah, it is. It's big. This, it has a lot on the line. Not only the pride of the community to win this game, but also, like you said, playoff seedings. To get the home field advantage, to get the number 1 seed, to be able to host playoff games throughout the playoffs. And that's big. That's something that Oakland's had the advantage the last few years, to be able to host games. And be able to play at home all through the playoffs until they get to the semifinals. And that's a goal that we all are shooting for, and that's the goal these kids are shooting for. So it's something else, for these kids to think about and to go out and play for.
Coach, your defense has been special, and you've had some really good defenses since you've been there, but this defense is so special, and I guess I start with the linebackers. You've got such a special group of linebackers with the Herring brothers, and then Alex Mitchell's just playing out of his mind there this year, and I think he probably gets overlooked by how talented the Herrings are. But I mean, Alex Mitchell's had a great season. Just talk about your defense and how it's been so successful for you guys.
Well, these guys have been in the program they've been there since freshmen. And they've all played together. Most of them played together through middle school. So they all had the same competitive edge. They all go out and practice hard. That's what I was telling somebody a few weeks ago, that all these guys, when the first offense is going, they're on the defense. They're trying to get our offense better by getting more reps on defense. They're a very competitive group. This is one of the most competitive groups that we've had in a long time. And they take pride in keeping people out of the end zone. Shelbyville got inside the 5-yard line twice on us this year. And the defense was able to keep them out from scoring any points. And that's just something they take pride in. And these guys, all these guys, and you leave off another guy, Tamarius Smith, number 2 for us, who I think is playing excellent also. Like you said, he just gets so overshadowed by the other 3. And then our defensive front, Isaac Oglesby, he's playing really, defensive end is playing extremely well for us. So guys like that who stepped up from last year's team, I thought we had a really good defensive front last year, and those guys were able to practice and practice with those guys from last year and see how they performed. Now it's their time. Malachi Common, another defensive end for us, is playing really well. They've stepped up in their role, and they waited their time, and when their time came, they've worked really hard and produced.
Coach, I think you were off last week. How important was that kind of an off week to rest up before this big game?
It was real good. We've been going 7 weeks in a row, and then the 3 weeks we scrimmaged fall camp, and I think the bye week came at a good time, and we're able to get some guys that have bumps and bruises, get them healed up, and be able to come hopefully with a fresh plan for next Friday with those kids being healthy, and we brought them in a few days last week to get the jump start on them. Anytime you're playing one of the top 10 teams in the nation and number 1 team in the state, you need all the work you can get. So I think, but our guys were excited and they all showed up. And it was a really good setting at practice last week.
Coach, you face a dynamic run game with Jordan James and Antonio Patterson, and it seems like they may be at their best when they get in that wildcat look. How tough of a challenge is it to slow down that run game of what Oakland has?
Well, it's real tough. Those two, two really good backs, probably the top 2 backs in the state. And then they, when things get tough for them, they go into wildcat formation with Antonio and put Jordan James back there. And, you talk about people being overshadowed. Antonio Patterson is overshadowed quite a bit. I think he's one of the top running backs in the state. And, he doesn't get enough credit for all what he's done. You go back and watch all the film this year, and he's made some really, really, really special plays. And he's a really talented young man. And having both of those kids back there is very dynamic.
Your quarterback, Jamison Holcomb, he's been there for a while. Obviously, he's got a good pedigree with knowing who his dad is. And what has he can you just talk about his leadership, what he provides to this offense here? Just kind of, he's been here enough where he can calm the offense when needed.
Yeah, anytime, he's been here, he's been around. Practice with us, last 3 years, and he's really calm, and just his leadership and his knowledge of the game and to help, he's like having another coach on the field, and for him to be able to be out there on the field and just the extension of the coaching staff, when things are not going our way and adversity hits, and keep our guys calm and keep everybody, we only returned 3 starters from last year on the offense: Jelani Lyles, Jamison Holcomb, and Marcus Lloyd. So it's been really big for him on the field this year to get everybody lined up and get them in the right spots.
Coach, when you talk about this is such a big week, and this is a rivalry week, and it would be hard to not get amped up like on Monday. But how do you kind of keep them maybe a little amped down where they kind of get more up later in the week rather than because if you're really up for it now, you're gonna be really up for it Friday, or does it matter? It's Oakland Riverdale, so it's let this be as amped up as you can, or do you try to keep them kind of subdued for first couple days and kind of build on that energy as the week goes on?
Well, as the week goes on, the energy will amp up. But like you said, being a Riverdale Oakland game and knowing what's on the line, these kids are excited to. You hear it in the hallway all day at school, people talking about it and the principals talking about it and stressing it. And so, they're going to be a little bit more amped up on Monday than they usually are. But then, like you said, as the week goes on, it's closer to game time it gets, the more amped up they get.
Will a certain former principal named Nolan make an appearance this week to maybe motivate him a little bit? Because I think this game means more to him than maybe anyone. He's been here to quite a few games this year and standing on the sideline, but he'll have his Riverdale stuff on this week, and he'll be, he'll make an appearance and he'll have a few words to say to them. Well, Coach, we joked about this the other day. Oakland's had a couple big gates, opportunities with Lipscomb was a big gate, and CPA probably wasn't as big as it could have been with it being over fall break. But have you talked to Coach Kriesky? Maybe he'll split the gate with you on this one, maybe a little bit, or give you a third of it, because this would be a big crowd, I think.
Yeah, I tried to get him to switch it over here to Riverdale, but he wasn't for it since he already had the last two gates. But yeah, it's a big gate, and it's good. It's good. He's the third gate in a row that's really big for him. So that's something positive for his football program. To be able to have that.
Well, and for you, I mean, it's got to be special if it's at Riverdale or Oakland when these two teams meet, and especially when the records are like this and the programs are really playing the way they are right now. I mean, this is shaping up for a very special night in Murfreesboro with a Battle of the Borough. You'll get a lot of old timers, I think, come to this game, knowing how big it is. I think it might even be a TV game.
Yeah, for it to be a Riverdale game, if some of the guys from former players, alumni for both schools, if they don't come to any game all year, this is the game they usually come to. And then especially with the way it's setting up to be with two 7-0 teams, a lot of people will be there. So the crowd will be, packed. The community's talking about it. You get on social medias. Mm-hmm. They're all there. A lot of former players are talking about this game and are excited for it. So it's the TV is coming. They'll be there Friday night. So there'll be a lot of media outlets out there. 104.5, The Zone will also be out there. I got an email from them today. So there'll be a lot of people out there and media covering this game.
And last question, this is the most important question of the night. How's the newest addition to the family doing?
Man, she's doing really well. I was just bragging on her to the coaching staff. She's sleeping through the night, so I can't complain. So as long as she's sleeping through the night, I'm good. I think my middle child, Ella Kate, she thinks it's her real baby doll, so my wife has to watch over her because she's grabbing her, picking her up when she shouldn't be. So, yeah. But she's making the youngest one tough now.
Will she be has she made it to a game yet, or she?
She unfortunately missed the Smyrna game, but she was there at the Siegel game, so she's already attended her first Riverdale game, and then hopefully she's going to be there Friday night. Looks like the rain's going to hold off, and she'll be there Friday night.
A little cheerleader for you guys.
Yes. Oh yeah, she'll be screaming all right.
All right, Coach. Again, congratulations on the new addition. Good week. Good luck this week against Riverdale. Huge game, and good luck to you.
Appreciate you having me on.
All right, that's been Will Kriesky, head football coach at Riverdale High School, where Riverdale 7-0. They travel across town to Oakland 7-0 in the Battle of the Borough. If you want to talk about high school football rivalry games, you almost have to start with this big rivalry game here. It will not disappoint. Now we're going to be joined by Cecil Joyce of the Daily News Journal to talk about this Riverdale-Oakland game a little more in depth. Joined now by Cecil Joyce of the Daily News Journal.
Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Cecil, this is the third game of the week in 4 weeks that we've had Oakland involved in it. I guess we start there. This has been a tough stretch for the Oakland Patriots.
It can be a positive or a negative when you look at it that way. The positives, obviously, they're battle tested. A lot of people questioned their schedule, which may not be any fault of theirs over the last few years, but you definitely cannot say anything about Oakland playing the best right now. I mean, CPA, Lipscomb, even Blackman is able to put points on the board. That's a big rivalry game. So really, this is the fourth game in a row that Oakland's had to be on top of their game.
Yeah, in this Riverdale game, I think this is a new dynamic just because it's a rivalry game. And Blackman Oakland's has become a rivalry game of late, but this is the rivalry game. Oakland, Riverdale, Battle of the Borough. Throw the records out, even though this year they're all undefeated. But this is another dynamic of how Oakland and how Riverdale will handle the pressure of it being such a big rivalry week. Like Coach Kriesky said, everyone's talking about this game in the hallway, so they've got to kind of stay kind of reel them in. It's a little early to get too hyped for this game. You got a few more days, but big game. How do you calm them down? How do you keep calm where you're not too excited on Monday, where you kind of flutter out on Friday?
Well, kind of going back to what we just talked about, I think it'll be probably a little tougher for Coach Kreisky to settle his troops down. As big a game as it is for them, it's the biggest game they've played in a while, since last year when they played Oakland. And, Oakland having gone through the stretch they've just gone through, I know they're not looking at this as just another game. This is obviously the big rivalry game, the region championship, in all intents and purposes for them. But I think they'll probably be a little more calm coming in just from the battle-tested part we talked about.
Yeah, you look at this and, Lipscomb was within 2 yards of winning, or at least tying, I should say, potentially tying. CPA was 2.5 yards from winning the game. They both Oakland found ways to win both. Now you bring, Lipscomb was the passing team, Oakland or CPA was the running team, and this is the defensive team. They're going to have to figure out how to score against this very talented defense. I think all three games, CPA, Lipscomb, and Riverdale will present different challenges. But I think this is the week where you say, can Oakland score against one of the best defenses in the state?
And you're absolutely correct. I think that, with all due respect to CPA and Lipscomb, this is going to be the best defense Oakland has played. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I don't know if Riverdale's offense is on the same level as CPA and Lipscomb, so that dynamic will be a little different. But when you're playing a defense like Riverdale's, you can't afford to get down 14 points, 20 points, because you're not going to be able to score as much as Oakland's been scoring lately. And I mean, that's going in. You think that's going to be the case. Now, Riverdale had a great defense last year as well. And Oakland put up 39 points on them in the playoffs. I think it was 30 points in the regular season game. So Oakland finds ways to score on good defenses, but this should by far be the best defense they've played.
Break this game. How can Riverdale win this game?
Eating the clock. I think that's number one. Oakland can score so quickly, and the more they have the ball in their hands, CPA and Lipscomb found out that how many points they can put on the board if you give them the ball. They don't turn it over a lot. They're efficient and effective with the ball in their hands. So Riverdale needs to run the ball, possess the ball, eat 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock on each drive, and just keep the ball out of Oakland's hands, because even as good as their defense is, you don't want them out on the field that long.
How does Oakland win this game?
Sticking to their guns, not turning the ball over, not making silly mistakes. If they can score, 2-3 touchdowns, they should be in pretty good shape. This will probably be a very low-scoring game.
And you talk about turnovers. I mean, we've seen Oakland has turned the ball over a little bit here and there. What I've seen, though, is they tend to figure out how to not let those turnovers lead to a lot of points. So if I'm Riverdale, I think, okay, if we can get a turnover, and this is what they've been good at, if that defense gets a turnover, they have to figure out a way to score out of that. Right,
and Black created a turnover on the first play of the game against Oakland. They scored 2 plays later and jumped out to a quick 7-0 lead. Obviously, Oakland put up 60-some-odd points in that game, so it was really a non-factor. But this is the kind of game where Oakland can't turn it over deep in their own territory and give Riverdale an easy scoring opportunity, because Oakland's defense is pretty darn good too. So Riverdale's going to have it's a lot at stake here trying to move the ball against Oakland's defense. So don't give them easy points.
And something tells me Oakland's not scoring 60-plus points this week against this Riverdale defense. So
I would be shocked if that's the case.
Yeah. So points. If Riverdale can get some defense, if they can get a defensive score, that goes a long way on there. I mean, I think I'm like you. I think if there's more than 50 points scored between the two teams, I would be shocked. I think you're looking at a somewhat low-scoring game. But I'm going to ask you now, what give me a prediction.
Right now, I'm going to go Oakland 24, Riverdale 14.
Okay, that's close to what I have. Cecil, this is a week I think that fans are going to have to realize they want to get there early to this game, because this is going to be another one of those big Lipscomb type crowds where it's granted this one's on TV, but this is a huge crowd.
Right, and I think we saw there were over 5,000 people at the Lipscomb game, and you said last week's CPA game, because of fall break, wasn't as crowded, but it was still a good crowd considering. I mean, that would be a good regular season crowd for any other game. Yeah. So definitely, if they don't get there by the time gates open, which I think will probably be around 5:30, then you might have a hard time getting a seat or getting a parking spot or anything else, because it's going to be probably close to 5,000 again.
I think I told a principal at Oakland that last week was Friends Family Weekend. It seemed like no cheerleader, no bands because of the fall break, which we all understand that. I was on fall break part of that myself, so we understand that. But this right here, this will be a good crowd, good environment. it's going to take a while for fans to get in this game and to get out at the end of the game. It's going to be a traffic nightmare, I think, getting in and getting out.
I think the biggest difference in this game, the Lipscomb game, is the Lipscomb game was on a Thursday night, so you had football coaches, players, and fans from all across the mid-state coming to see that. With other games being played Friday night, it's really going to be a Murfreesboro crowd, so that's the big thing. But you'll probably see more Murfreesboro people than you even saw at the Oakland Lipscomb game because of the Riverdale faction. There's a lot of Riverdale people that probably didn't come to the Lipscomb game against Oakland, and they'll be packing it in. Like Coach Kreisky said, this is the game former players come to, former coaches come to.
Mm-hmm. Former principals. I would think Tom Nolan might be there at some point.
I would guess he would be there.
I would think maybe even director of schools might even make an appearance there if he's available. So, Cecil, I appreciate you joining us. No pressure, but you've got the game of the week for the third time in 4 weeks. So big game in the borough at Ray Hughes Stadium. 7:00 kickoff. Undefeated Riverdale versus undefeated Oakland in what should be a classic Battle of the Borough.
It should be a great one, and we'll have an instant game story right up after the game, and also a feature coming later on that night. So look at dnj.com for all the breaking news from that game.
And he'll also have some special stuff going into that game, kind of as you do. You do such a great job finding some good angles, good stories going into what has been such a great rivalry series.
The key number is 54. It'll be the 54th meeting between the two teams, and Oakland is going for their 54th consecutive home victory.
And what do you know the series? Do you know
I think it's 32-21 Riverdale. I believe that's.
But it's been a while since the Warriors have brought home a W.
That's correct. They dominated the 90s and early part of the 2000s, and it's been Oakland since, I guess, 2015, 2014.
Yep. So, Cecil, appreciate it. Thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Now we're going to be joined next by Joe Spears. Going to go back and look at our top 10 games. Of course, we'll touch first on the Riverdale Oakland game, but then we'll go to our other 9 games. Of course, a lot of teams are on fall break this week. Of course, I guess half of them were off last week. This probably the most of them are. A lot more are off this week. So joined now by Joe Spears to talk about our top 10 games.
How's it going, Tom?
It would be going a lot better if I had a better record against you right now.
Agreed. I mean, for you, you don't bet against Beach in that kind of game, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, it looked good for a little bit, right?
It did. We'll talk about Beach here in a bit. But, yeah, great win last week.
Full disclosure, how bad is it right now for me?
It's not bad. I've got a 3-game lead on you. I mean, it's you can overcome it. I believe in you.
So are we going with a tomahawk steak? Is that what the prize is if you beat me?
If I end up with more wins than you this year, it's going to be a tomahawk steak. I finally get to enjoy the grilling like a villain. So
we'll see. We'll see if I can stop that. So first game of the week. We've talked at length at it. We'll talk a little bit more. Riverdale 7-0, 3-0 in 4-6A. They're going to travel across town to Oakland, who's 7-0, 3-0. In the Battle of the Borough. Great, maybe the best rivalry right now in high school football, probably one of the top 5 for sure. But tell me about this game.
Yeah, I mean, Battle of the Borough every year is a big game. This year it might be bigger than it has been in recent years just because of what's at stake. They're both undefeated, both going for that top spot in the region. And if Riverdale is going to get Oakland, I think this might be the year because of that defense. The Warriors have only given up 27 points the entirety of the season. That's kind of insane when you really think about it. They got that great linebacker core that's played really well. But Oakland's Oakland. They squeaked out another win last week against CPA, just like they did against Lipscomb Academy. I think Oakland's probably played a tougher schedule overall than Riverdale. A lot of tough games on that. Oakland also doesn't lose at home, kind of like you and Cecil said. They haven't lost at home, I think, since 2013. That also coincidentally was the last time they lost to Riverdale. Went back and looked it up, kind of a neat little stat there. I don't think this is the year Riverdale ends that streak, though. I've got Oakland winning this one 28-17. Too much Jordan James, too much Antonio Patterson.
53 straight. Kevin Kriesky has never lost on that football field. Think about that. That's they faced some good Riverdale teams, they faced some good Blackman teams, they faced some good Maryville teams, and they've come out on top at Ray Hughes Stadium every time. They'll do it again this week, but it'll be a low-scoring game. I think you and Cecil are putting too much stock on offense. I think this is a defensive battle. I think Oakland wins this game 21-7. I think maybe that last touchdown maybe comes a little late for Oakland, but I think this is another classic battle of the borough. Next game, and granted, I'll give you credit. You had a tough time finding 10 great games because a lot of teams were off, but you found some good ones. I'll give you credit there. Found some really good ones, including this game. Hendersonville 5-2 at Chattanooga. Baylor 5-2, and it's a game you normally wouldn't see. I mean, Hendersonville going clear down to Chattanooga to find a game and playing a D2 AAA powerhouse in Baylor. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah, I think this one could be a lot of fun. Baylor's played really well this year. I think they're averaging close to 38 points. Defensively, they've given up some points. They're giving up close to 20, and I think Hendersonville could take advantage of that. Granted, Hendersonville only scored 14 points last week. The Commandos are in control of their region right now with that win over Beach earlier in the year. So this is just kind of a game to see how they stack up against one of the best D2 AAA teams. I think Hendersonville wants to win this game. It'll be tough. It's at Baylor. Ellis really needs to get out to a fast start leading that offense. I think they'll be able to put up some points, but I just think Baylor is one of probably the best teams in D2 AAA right now. So I've got them winning 35-21.
Okay. Hendersonville, 2 losses, Oakland and Ravenwood. Those are 2 good teams to lose to. Problem is Baylor's just as good, and I think they're in our top 25, just like Ravenwood and Oakland. So I'm going to go Baylor 35-14 over Hendersonville. Staying with a Division II AAA flavor, Pope John Paul II, 5-2, 1-2 in the East Middle. They go to Knoxville Catholic, 4-2, 2-1. Of course, Lipscomb Academy just thumped them 44-0 this last week. But we know how talented that Lipscomb team is. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I mean, this one will be really interesting considering what both teams come into it off of. I mean, Pope John Paul had the open week last week. Week before that, they scored a season low and a loss to NBA. They only scored 17. I think they're due for a bounce back week. Offensively, I don't think they're as talented as Lipscomb Academy, but Kenny Minchie is as good as they come here in the mid-state and the state in general. He's had a really good season. I think he could give that Knox Catholic team some issues. Knox Catholic's really struggled the last couple of weeks. They had that loss to Lipscomb Academy. They also lost, I believe, 44-7 to Macaulay. So, I mean, they lost to 2 really good teams, but that defense, they give up some points. I think this one will end up being close in the end, though. I got Pope John Paul winning 31-24.
Kenny Minchie will be the difference maker in this game. JP2 wins this game 28-21. Gonna throw it all over the field and come up with a couple big plays late. Next game, Davidson Academy 4-3, 1-2 in D2 at Goodpasture. That's 2-3, 0-2 in league play. And Davidson Academy's done. They've fared fairly well in their first year in D2 AA.
Yeah, they've struggled the last couple of weeks, so they've lost 3 straight games after that great start to the year. Granted, they've played a really tough schedule. That Nashville Christian team they lost to a couple of weeks ago is one of the best in D2A. This is Davidson Academy's first real losing streak since 2014, so tough sledding there. Goodpasture's also struggled this year. They've lost 2 out of their last 3 with back-to-back losses. I think this is a good week for Davidson Academy to get back on track. The talent's there. They just played a really tough schedule. I've got them winning 30-14.
I agree with you there. I'm not going to catch you if I keep picking the same teams. Davidson Academy wins this game 21-12, and probably probably the 4th best team behind whoever wins between CPA and Lipscomb and then BGA. They're probably the next best team if they win this game. Father Ryan 5-3, 0-3 in D2 AAA East Middle at Macaulay 7-0, 3-0. Of course, I had a correction on this. I did a thing looking at the playoff scenarios, and full disclosure, I messed up. I didn't realize, which I don't think it was very well advertised or even talked about in TSA cycles that all teams in D2 AAA are making the playoffs again for the first time in like 3 years. So missed that. So Father Ryan's in the playoffs, but they get a big challenge this week at McCallie.
Yeah, and Father Ryan, they're winless in region play, but they've only lost those 3 games by 12 points. They've played a really tough schedule as well. They're playing teams really well. They come into this game off of a really good win. But they're going against the McCallie team. That's the top team in D2 AAA. William Riddle, McCallie's quarterback's been really good this year. He's passed for over 1,600 yards with 20 touchdowns and no interceptions. So that's going to be tough to go against. I think Father Ryan keeps this close early on, but McCallie's just kind of on a different level than everybody else. I've got McCallie winning 38-17.
I've got this fairly close to that. I think it's a McCallie 42-10 over Father Ryan. I just think right now McCallie's on the probably the heavy favorite to win their 3rd straight. So we'll see what happens there. Blackman 3-4, 0-3 and 4 6A. They go to Rockvale 6-1, 2-1 for the mighty Rockets of Rockvale. And if you're Rockvale, you win this game, you're guaranteed in the playoffs. And Blackman must win this game if they have any hope of getting in the postseason play.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the major difference here. I mean, Rockvale, they're in a really good position to make their first ever playoff appearance. Blackman has to win. When you got a team that's backed into a corner like that, they're either going to fold or they're going to play their best football. Blackman's defense has struggled this year. I mean, they're giving up 42.5 points. Offensively, the Blaze have been great. I mean, they put up 36 against Oakland. They're averaging 34.3 points per game. This was a toss-up for me. The way Rockville's been playing, Rockville beat Stewart's Creek. Stewart's Creek beat Blackman. But in the end, I'm going to go with the Blaze here. I think they're pushed into a corner. I've got Blackman winning 42-35.
I called in reinforcements for this game, Joe. I texted my son. My son, of course, is a Rockvale freshman football player, and I figure if anyone knows Rockvale better, it has to be him. Okay. Rockvale wins this game. They guarantee themselves in the playoffs by the score of 38-6. Now, I questioned the score, the 6 points. I said, this Blackman team scores some points, but if anyone knows their defense, my son must know something I don't know. So, gotcha. Rockvale 38-6 per a little help from Little A.
So that's a good pick.
Gallatin 3-3, 2-1 and 5-6A at Beach 5-2, 2-1, and another big game. Both teams a big game for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like we hinted on there earlier. Beach struggled against Springfield there for the first 3 quarters. They were down 17-10 going into the 4th quarter. Scored 3 touchdowns to win that game, 31-17, giving me a 3-game lead on you. So I appreciate the Buccaneers for that. Patrick Hill played really great in that game. 215 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. He's been really good for this offense this year. Then you got on the other side of that, Gallatin. It's kind of been a weird year for them. In games they've won, they've averaged close to 40 points. In games they've lost, they've averaged only 9 points. So just kind of an up and down year. This game's really for that 2nd seed in the region after Hendersonville beat Beach earlier this year. I think it's kind of a low-scoring game. I think Beach scores in the 4th quarter to take control of this one. I got them winning 24-14.
I've got another connection here. I'm down 3 games. I've got to start making moves. You may not be aware of this. My wife is a Beach alum. So if anyone knows the Beach Buccaneers, my wife knows. I think my brother-in-law is even friends with Anthony Crabtree on Facebook, I think. Beach will win this game 28-12 per the alum.
Okay, so we were kind of close there.
Pretty close there. All right, next game, we'll speed this up a little bit. No more help from the family. I don't have any more connections. Etowah, Alabama, 4-3.
Yeah,
they're at Lipscomb Academy, 7-1. Big game there, and a little bit of a thing. If this game happens, unless something happens, if someone canceled due to COVID or whatever, but the TO Display is going to adjust the overall record at Lipscomb after this game. So if they win this game, they'll still be 7-1 just because they picked up a COVID win over Good Pasture. Well, they can't be 10-1 because you can only play 10 games in a regular season. So the TSBLA will adjust that this week if they win, if this game is played, and it looks like it will be played, and they will basically just give them that Good Pasture region win. They won't get the overall win. So this simple little bookkeeping there. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Etowah, they're coming off this game, it looked like, off a 44-0 win. They're averaging 28 points per game. Not sure they've faced a team as talented as this Lipscomb Academy team, though. Lipscomb Academy, like we said earlier, they thumped Knoxville Catholic last week. They're playing really well. Luther Richardson, he continues to just excel. 5 touchdown passes last week, still no interceptions on the year. The kid can play. I don't think Lipscomb Academy has any issues in this one. I've got them winning 49-12.
I'm going to have to look up the stat at some point, Joe, what the best completion percentage is for a season, but I think there's a good chance, whatever it is, Luther Richardson's going to break that this year. With the, at one point going into last week, I think he had more touchdowns or as many touchdowns as he had incompletions, or something crazy stat like that. Lipscomb wins this game 56-14 to move into that CPA game. Would be just a small game there. Greenbrier 3-4, 3-2. They're in 5-4A. They travel to Pearl Cone 7-1, 5-1 there.
Yeah, Greenbrier needs an upset win here. I mean, they lost to Marshall County earlier in the year. They're really fighting for that 4th seed in the region. It doesn't get easier, though. I mean, after this, they got Montgomery Central they lost to earlier, excuse me. They still have Marshall County and Tullahoma left on schedule after this. They need an upset win here against Pearl Cone. Unfortunately, Pearl Cone's back to being Pearl Cone for them. I mean, Barry and Brown, Malachi Cromwell really have been standouts for them. I mean, we expected Brown to do that this year. Cromwell, just a sophomore, he's having a great season. Pearl Cone, that offense is back to clicking. I don't think they have really any issues in this one. I think they win 38-14.
I've got Pearl Cone winning this game 42-7. We'll see. I plan on being that game. I haven't seen Greenbrier in a couple years, and I haven't seen Pearl Cone this year, so get a chance to see Pearl in there and talk to Tony Bernetti. They're doing some renovations at that stadium. They will still have that game at Pearl, from what I'm being told right now. So we'll see about that. Upperman 6-1, 3-0, 4 in 4-4A. They go to DeKalb County 5-2, 2-1. That's their last game of 10, I believe, unless I missed one. What you got on this game?
Yeah, I mean, you got two very kind of the way they've operated this year, two different teams. I mean, DeKalb County averaging 34 points per game, putting up a ton of points. Upperman can score, but they've really just relied on that defense a lot this year. They've only given up 63 points for the entirety of the season so far. Upperman's only losses to a really good Fayetteville team that we think could maybe compete for a state title again. So no reason to get in on that loss all that much. Upperman, this is for that top spot in 4-4A. Upperman, it's going to be a tough environment to go to DeKalb County, but I think the Bees on defense have a lot to work with. Offensively, Ty Dutchess, that whole offense has a lot of weapons. So I think Upperman wins. I think this one's kind of close, though. I've got Upperman winning 27-21.
Picking Upperman in a little bit higher scoring affair. Upperman wins this game 35-21, and a two-score game there. So hopefully I can make a little bit of inroads in the picks. If not, I will have to start throwing some Hail Marys.
So Blackman Rockville this week, and then I go up 4 games. Got it.
Oh, you won't be up 4 games. I trust my son's intuition.
Gotcha.
That does it for this week's Bootleg, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Thank you each week for listening to us. Thank you to, of course, Farm Bureau Health Plans for their support. Without their support, we cannot do shows like this and other things. Big things coming up soon. More announcements coming. But we'll see you next week.